Hello, and welcome to It's Fate. I'm Morgan Barker,
I'm Katie Christiansen.
and we are doing a deep dive into chapters 36 through 41 of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas.
If this is the first episode you're listening to, just a little spoiler warning. This is a reread for us. So we do give a little spoilers for the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury. So just in case.
Yes, and we always try to preface, like, quick spoiler warning. There's not a bunch in this one, but it's hard not to talk about what happens in the next book as we are rereading the first book. So we also have a little pronunciation corner because last episode we were not 100% sure how to pronounce some names, so we decided to look some up, and the creature that works for Amarantha is called the Ator, or is it Ator?
I think it's a tour.
Ator. Okay. I should have known. I'm the one who looked this up and wrote it down. And then Lucian, or I've been saying Lucian, it's Lucian. It's still that sh sound, but Lucian.
I kind of like that better.
Yeah, it's fancy.
It is a little, it's not, I feel like Lucian sounds too real.
Yeah, and it's not a fake enough name for the fantasy world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I did want to do a little It's Fate real life moments about how I fell in love with Morgan.
Oh my gosh. Stop.
We
don't stop.
We have this same job.
Yes.
And I started a job and they had me. It was my first real big girl job.
Oh.
And they were like, well, go in with Morgan. You're going to watch her today. And I was like, okay. Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I saw you at my interview.
You did?
Yeah.
Yes, I met you.
I met you and I saw a little bit and I was like, oh my God, this girl is so beautiful. And she dresses so cute. And she's like, I'm going to cry. It does an amazing job with the kids.
Wow.
And then
we should say we're speech therapists.
Oh, yeah.
Speech pathologists, whatever.
And then I got to spend the whole day with her. And I just was like, she's genius.
Wow.
And look at her go.
Look at her making my whole life right now.
So whenever you feel like you don't know what you're doing.
All the time.
Just know that no one knows.
Nobody knows.
No one knows. There we go. That's how we met.
Yeah. That was a cute story. Thank you so much. And then my birthday was shortly after, and Katie gave me a birthday present, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be her friend so badly, and she just gave me a birthday present, so that means she wants to be my friend so badly.
I did.
And then we realized we had friend crushes on each other, which is just so fun when those, especially in adulthood, when those come about.
Yeah, it's hard to make friends as adults.
Yeah.
It's not as easy. It's just like, I guess it's hard to always meet new people, I should say. And
yeah, you never know when you're going to meet somebody new because you're not like going to school and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, shall we jump in?
Yes. Chapter 36.
Go.
Feyre is taken from her cell for her first task. Dun dun dun. She is brought to the arena. And it looks like a labyrinth of tunnels in the floor.
Yeah, I had to reread it a few times, even the first time I read it, to fully picture what was happening.
Me too. It wasn't an easy...
No, because it was like people were before her, but above her. And then when she's in the pit, she can see the people looking down on her. I don't know.
Yeah. Amarantha greets Feyre and puts her hand on Tamlin's knee.
Saucy.
He shows no emotion, though.
Oh my goodness.
She's definitely trying to push Feyre's buttons.
Yeah.
And I think even Tamlin's buttons.
Yeah, definitely. She knows what she's doing.
Do you think that Amarantha thinks that Tamlin loves Feyre?
Yeah, I do. I think that's why she's being more possessive over him. It's gone beyond the, oh, I want you and you don't want me. And now it's, I want you, you don't want me, and you want somebody else.
A human.
A human of all people, of all trash, garbage. So I do. I think that's part of the reason why all this is happening. I think if Amarantha didn't think Tamlin loved Feyre, then she would have just killed Feyre right off the bat. But this is a form of torture for him.
I like that.
Yeah, she's wicked.
She's very, very cunning.
That's a nicer word. Yeah,
I like that word.
Okay, so this first task that is about to happen is crazy. Do you think Tamlin knew how crazy it was going to be and still showed no emotion towards Farah?
Maybe he didn't know the exact details of the task, but I can see Amarantha torturing him with little details.
Yeah.
I can also, I mean, he knows how wicked she can be.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows it's something awful.
It's just hard for me to think about this and think, okay, well, Farah could die. And Tamlin probably knows that she could die.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not even like giving her like anything.
I know.
Not even just like a little smile, or you know how in books they say 10,000 bajillion things with their eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just say one of those things. Just say, hey, I love you with your
A
eyeballs.
wink?
Yeah, a wink. That would be
That was weird.
Yeah, but just like a little, I can't do it. You know, just saying I love you with his eyes. Why isn't he doing that?
A tear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ACOTAR
Yes.
flings her into the arena. Amarantha calls Rhys by his full given legal name. Rhysand. Which I think is a clue that they're not friends.
Yeah. I don't know if we would have picked that up in the first,
No.
like rereading or reading it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But in the second book, which I wouldn't really classify this as a spoiler, but
No.
people who know him well call him Rhys.
Yeah. So I think it's a little like tidbit into the relationship.
And it kind of feels like a parent using your first and middle name when you're in trouble or when they really want your attention. And I think it just shows that like dominance, that she's this
authority figure.
Yes, thank you. There's the word.
Yeah. So Feyre meets the worm.
Yeah, does it have a name? We just call it the worm.
I think it's just the worm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Creepy.
And then she starts planning her escape. I'm always amazed at how fast heroes in fantasy books can come up with plans to save their life.
Same.
I'm always like, I would be dead.
I'm literally reading this and I'm like, oh, I would have died there. Well, if I had made it through that, I would have died there. And then I would have died again there. So, but who knows? Like we've talked about before, we've never really been in some crazy life or death situations. Thank the cauldron. So
I don't want that placed on me.
So. No, thank you.
Mm-mm. Something I noticed, it says the worm clicked its teeth at her.
Ew.
I love your sound effects.
I don't like the sound of my teeth, my molars clinging together, or the feel.
I don't. Oh, okay.
Ugh.
Yeah. Okay, is it snapping its jaws at her, or is it like moving its teeth?
Oh, it's probably snapping. I pictured like clattering teeth when you're really cold.
Okay.
But it was probably snapping.
Yeah.
It also said that the worm slurped.
Ew.
It was slurping.
Well, because worms are juicy. They are. They're like all slimy.
Ew. And this was a fat worm.
It's big.
This was thick. Thick boy. This worm was thick. It had lots of teeth. And like to go slurpy slurp. Take that as you will. Anyway, while she's trying to avoid death, Farah says in her head, not like this, not like this, not like this. And she says it over and over again. And at the beginning of the book, when she's fighting the Naga, she also says this, not like this, not like this. Which is interesting. Because, like, then like what?
Peaceful?
I guess. So, like, do you ever want to die?
No. That's why she's...
every time, not like this.
I think, too, it's probably her being a hunter. And probably has been in danger before.
And she doesn't want to be hunted.
I actually, one of my fears is getting eaten alive.
By what?
A shark specifically.
Okay.
I have nightmares.
Oh no.
It's really scary.
Have you ever watched Jaws?
No,
I don't.
Yeah, it's a hard. I can't even like snorkel, which I love the ocean.
That's funny because I don't have that extreme of a fear, but I don't like the ocean.
Oh, I love the ocean. Yeah, can I take on this? I can't snorkel. I have a panic attack. Oh no. It's really bad. Anyway, so I would be like Farah and be like, not like this.
Mm-hmm.
don't eat me, please.
And maybe that's just her form of encouraging herself. Not like this, not like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Feyre ends up in the worm's pit and covers herself in the worm's poop.
She does this to cover her scent because she realizes the worm is blind. And she realizes this because she ends up on opposite sides of the pit from the worm. And she can tell this based off of the crowd's reactions. And she, like, I don't even remember how she realized it. But as I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't think I would have figured this out.
No.
It's so smart.
It's so smart. While she's planning her way out of the pit, she overhears one of the fairies ask, "What's it doing?" And they also bet money on her if she would live or die. And I felt like having her overhear one of the fairies call her an it really shows how the other fairies view humans.
Yeah.
They're not living beings. We are animals to them.
It's interesting, though, because I feel like humans view the Fae in a similar way. Whereas they're not lesser animals. They're like frightening, scary animals, but they're still this like disgusting it creature. So it just shows that there's such a big lack of understanding about the two different species.
Feyre decides to give Amarantha the hunt that she wants to see.
Get it?
What do you think snapped in Feyre to go from the offensive where she's running, she's really scared, to going on the defense and being like, I will hunt this worm?
I wonder if hearing a fairy say, like, what's it doing? Hearing that it, and how realizing, like, they're betting on her, like, nobody cares whether she lives or dies. In fact, people want her to die. Gave her this fuel of like, well, I'm going to show them that I can do this. And she probably thought of her love for Tamlin.
Yeah, that seems very fair to me. I
agree.
Go down with the fight. Absolutely. Rhysand understands what she's doing when she's covering herself with the poop.
Another smarty.
She describes his voice as deep and elegant.
Is this you asking me to make a Rhysand voice?
Yeah.
She's building a trap.
That was really good.
Thank you.
It's like velvet.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Read me the book.
I will.
Feyre impales the worm and then throws a bone at Amarantha and ruins her dress. And I think Amarantha likes it a little bit.
Ooh, she's into it.
I think she likes the sass. I think she likes that Feyre has a little bite to her.
Yeah, she probably likes the idea that this may be... I think Amarantha is still very confident that she's going to win, but she probably likes that it's a little bit of a challenge and that I think she likes the show of it all.
Yeah, she loves the show. Amarantha loves the show. We find out that everyone except for one person bet that she would die. And she gets sent off to her cell, and there's a bone sticking out of her arm.
I just can't believe that.
No, me either. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Anyway, chapter 37. She's in her cell for days. Her wounds keep bleeding, and she's worried about infection because she thinks she's about to get a fever. And she does get a fever, and she wakes from that feverish state to a visit from Rhys. And Rhys asks her what Tamlin would say if he could see her now and mention that his every movement is being watched.
Why do you think that he mentions... He kind of gives clues in Feyre that, yeah, Tamlin can't come help you. Why do you think he mentions this?
That's a good question. I don't know. A lot of these interactions in this section of the book, even knowing how Rhys's character plays out in future books, I'm still like, I don't really get it. You know? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Do you?
I wonder if it's to make Feyre feel a little bit better.
Yeah, to know. He's kind of showing. He does it in a sassy way, though.
Yeah, but I think it's in a sassy way to cover up, like, hey, he can't help you. Like, he can't do anything.
Well, and we know I'm about to talk about it. Reese is about to make a deal with Farah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's trying to show you have to take my help because nobody else is coming for you.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I like that point.
So Reese offers to heal her arm in exchange for living 2 weeks every month with him at the night court. And Farah is like, go to hell. No way.
At this point, I feel like he comes off such a creep.
Yeah.
I would be like, you're gross.
I know, it is kind of creepy. I still liked him even when I read the first book the first time. I love an anti-villain or an anti-hero, and he has major anti-villain vibes. And so I was just like, ooh, I'm intrigued. This is going to happen. She's going to have to live with him for 2 weeks of the night court. What's going to happen?
He likes to stir the pot.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. When it feels like it's not super annoying and outlandish. Whereas like this, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, this makes sense. Like he's trying to stir the pot. I like it.
Would you take this deal if it was offered to you?
Absolutely. If I was on my deathbed, are you kidding me? And I think in my mind, I would just be like, well, I'll figure out a way out of it later. But I have to do what I have to do to survive.
I would take it too. There's no option.
No it's option. Death or this. So Amarantha, apparently we find out, was very angry at Lucien for helping Farah during the first task because he did yell out a clue like the worm's on your left or something like that. And Tamlin begged to spare him. So Amarantha ordered the punishment where Tamlin had to give Lucien 20 lashes. I'm assuming with a whip. Why do you think Tamlin broke his frozen boy act to stick up for Lucien but hasn't done anything yet for Farah?
I don't know.
I didn't catch that the first read, and then reading it again, I was like, oh my goodness, sir.
That's a great question.
Just interesting.
Because at this point, because at first I was like, okay, maybe he's playing this persona that he like doesn't love her that much, but clearly he does. And I guess maybe you can think about it of like, oh, well, maybe Amaranth is thinking like, oh, he just loves Lucien so much.
Yeah, but I
don't know. It's kind of weird.
Maybe Tamlin hasn't felt like Farah is actually at risk of death yet, and Lucien was? I don't know.
She was in a worm pit.
Yeah, I know. And the worm was clittering?
Not clittering! Clicking.
I know. And the worm was clicking and slurping at her. Oh my goodness.
Tamlin's like, you got this, girl. He believes in her.
He really does. Okay, so before Farah agrees to Reese's offer, she has a moment where she feels that he is responsible for giving Claire's name and making Tamlin beg. So kind of feeling like Reese is almost the reason that a lot of these things have happened.
When she pointed this out, I feel like those two events also impact how Farah sees Tamlin. So you start seeing these like little things, right? Like he didn't stick up for Claire's name. He also, like with Reese, she saw Tamlin like beg at his feet. And I think it's like this idea that like Tamlin is really desperate. And seeing him in this position, but also not sticking up for himself at the same time, like just letting them walk all over him has, I think, started like implanting this little seed in Farah being like, hey, what's going on there?
That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And then something else I noticed is that when Farah is contemplating agreeing with Reese, she thinks about what would Nesta do.
Ooh.
And I just thought it was really interesting. Why do you think Nesta is the person that comes to her mind?
I think after her time at home, that we talked about on the last episode, her and Nesta connected. And I think she feels like she understands Nesta more. And for some reason that I still don't fully agree with, she kind of like admires her hardness and her willingness to survive in her own way, even though it's annoying that she actually really didn't help them survive. But anyway, I think that's how Farah's seeing it. And so maybe she's like pulling from that.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit a fault of the writing, to be honest, that we don't see a lot of their relationship. beforehand.
I know. And it would have been hard, but this book could have been longer, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the intro's very long, setting up the
I
world.
know.
But I don't know. I just wish, because sometimes Elaine and Nesta do come off very whiny or
Yeah, and just kind of
ungrateful.
lame.
Yeah, which I don't think Farrah sees them that way. And I wish we can see a little bit of how Farrah sees them.
I agree. I also think that Farrah is definitely one who, for the most part, until somebody very, very obviously hurts her or her loved ones, she really does try to see the best in everyone.
Yeah.
Which is a strength.
Yeah.
But it can also be a downfall when you don't know how to like put up appropriate boundaries or anything. Not that she has that issue, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then something else I noticed is Reese saves her again.
When did he save her last time?
He saved her with the fairies.
And he gave Claire the wrong name, or gave Amarantha Claire's name. Interesting. She bargains with Reese to make the deal only 1 week a month, which is still a lot of time.
That is.
That's like a lot of time.
A week? Yeah.
Not even just a weekend. And Farrah gets tatted with black and blue ink with an eye in the middle of her palm. And it says it looks like a lace glove to her elbow. And she tells Reese to make it go away. And it can't. It's a part of their culture in the night court. When bonds and oaths are made, they are marked by tattoos. Reese says, you fear a certain High Lord's reaction. Wait, I'll do his voice. You fear a certain High Lord's reaction. Which makes Farrah picture how upset Tamlin would be about this, which a little bit of a red flag there. Yeah. And Farrah is feeling like maybe she was tricked into a trap. Like this is somehow going to come back to haunt her. And yet again, she just keeps ignoring all of Alice's rules.
I don't know how she cannot ignore them.
I know. It's like, okay, don't trust your senses. Don't drink the wine. Don't make deals. She's made 2 deals. She drinks wine every night. Oh, she's about to drink wine every night.
Drink wine every night.
Yeah. That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So.
I think she still trusts Tamlin at this point, too.
Yeah.
She's always making hard eyes at him.
I know. Just thinking he's making them inside.
Chapter 38, Farrah is on cleaning duty, scrubbing away, but the water that they gave her was dirty. So obviously it's not getting cleaned. The creatures who had taken her to the room had threatened her with putting her on the spit and giving her like a few turns around the spit if it wasn't clean in time. Farrah's terrified by this, which, yeah.
That sounds awful. That's essentially being burned alive, but not to the point of death.
No. The Lady of the Autumn Court, aka Lucian's mother, cleans Farrah's water with magic, and she thanks Farrah for saving her son's life. I don't think I ever thought about how awful being under the mountain must have been for Lucian in terms of having to like see his family there.
Yeah, that's such an interesting storyline just with this whole family, that he's a side character. So we only get bits and pieces, but you feel like, oh my gosh, there's a whole tale there. And we also know that the Lady of the Autumn Court like mourns him in a way. Yeah, what do you think about that? Like, she clearly is not claiming him as her son, but still has a deep love for him.
I think it shows how awful the Autumn Court is, like the Autumn Court culture, how patriarchal it is. She, even though she's the Lady of the Autumn Court, she really doesn't have any power or say over even her family
or
members.
Autonomy. Yeah, because I thought about, like, as a mother, I would never want to. I don't feel like I could ever abandon my child. But I see this theme in a lot of fantasy books or books that take place in an earlier time period, where if this like dictator type father, territorial father makes these decisions, then the mom will weep about it, but like it is what it is because the dad
Yeah.
made the choice. It's just really sad.
It is really sad.
This is also a cool little moment of karma coming back for Farah, which is definitely a theme in her life where she does something kind for somebody and even risks her life for somebody or something, and it comes back to benefit her.
The next day, Farah gets another cleaning task, and it's to sort through lentils from ash.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Lentils are small.
They're so small. And ash, like that's gonna get all, I mean, it does. It gets all up in Farah's eyes and like she can't see, her hands are hurting.
Yeah, that's rough.
She notices that the bedroom is very neat and makes a comment about how it seems that the occupant of the room never sleeps there. Do you think Reese slept in the same room as Amarantha?
So this is Reese's room. I don't know. I thought about this because like they say, oh, it's Reese's whore or he's Amarantha's whore. Like he literally is.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, where's Tamlin sleeping then? Like what are Tamlin's
quarters?
Yeah, how is he bound to her in that way? Like clearly he's being forced against his will to sit next to her. Is that it right now? But I don't think he would sleep there unless she wanted it to. Reese, that is. And I feel like sleeping in someone's bed is more intimate and like romantic with somebody you love. And she doesn't love Reese. She's using him.
I thought the same thing. I don't think Reese sleeps there unless she's like, no, I'm cold.
Yeah.
He's just also very tidy. He's like
is.
always picking his lint off of his.
He's a neat king.
He's a neat, and I can also see him being like, "This is not my home."
That's true.
Like keeping it almost very
like
separated.
Not lived in. Yeah,
because he doesn't want it to ever feel like home.
That's a good point. I like that.
Also, is this the first time Reese calls her darling?
I think so.
I love it.
Me too. Reese shares that he was out from under the mountain for fire night for his own reasons. I guess we kind of skipped the fact that Reese comes in and everything, and they're kind of getting into it, like a little bit of an argument. And she's asking him a lot of questions. And he shares that he was there for fire night for his own reasons and that it cost him. And I cannot remember for the life of me. Do we ever find out what this is?
I think it was to see her, to see if Farah was there.
Really?
Because he knew that his spoiler alert, big one. He knew that his mate would be. He knew that she was now in Prithian. He was getting like these flashes.
I need to find that reread because I was listening to this thinking, what the heck is he talking about? So I'm gonna have to find that again. But I just wanted to see if you remembered. So
I mean, I think
we'll find out.
We will.
Yeah. Okay. End spoiler.
All the High Lords. We find out that all the High Lords can shapeshift. Reese is described as having talons and wings. Farah is a little bit turned on by it.
Yeah. What did she say? She said like the words she was using to describe him were like terrifying, but gorgeous.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah.
She loves a powerful man.
She does.
It's interesting to see her reaction to Reese's form compared to Tamlin's form. For example, she was not like she didn't care about like the wings and the talons, but when Tamlin gets his claws out, she does not like that.
That's true, and that's a good point too because Reese does have like a full beast form that he doesn't show her at this time. It's just the talons and the wings, which Tamlin shows the claws, and I think it's like how you can say a bad word, but when you say it when you're angry, it's like a little scarier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like depending on the context of the situation, like sometimes you're like, oof. Other times you're like, no, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought of.
Okay.
However, wings, I'm fine with. Talons out of the toes? Oh my God. Barf. I cannot.
Claws or talons?
Claws.
I think I would do claws as well.
100%. They didn't talk about claws coming out of Tamlin's toes.
True.
You have less control over your toes than you do your fingers. That freaks me out.
Yeah. I don't like the talons on the toes.
No, me neither. Anyway.
Reese's laugh. She describes as warming her bones.
It's cute.
It's so cute. Feyre asks Rhys if he knows the answer to the riddle, and he's like, "No, I can't." Like he's like, "I can't help you. Sorry." Like, which I love that she asked.
Way to be bold.
Yeah, I love that she knew that he would tell her
if he like could.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's kind of like, well, he's been helping me, so
Yeah.
yeah.
He cleans her up and glamours the guards not bother her or make her do any tasks. Feyre again does not say thank you to someone that helps her. So she didn't say thank you to the Autumn Court lady. She has this pattern of not thanking Rhys. He's always like, "You're welcome, you're welcome." And she's like, "Huh?" Like, "Oh yeah, I guess I didn't say thank you." Which I feel like is a little indication that Feyre is not used to people helping her.
Yeah, and it's coming from people that she wouldn't expect to be helping her, which I can't remember if she thanked Lucien when he came and healed her nose in the last section we read. But yeah, especially when it's coming from these people where she's just like, I think she's just so in shock that one, anyone would help her, but two, that the people who are helping her are her, like, what she believes are her enemies right now.
Yeah. And Rhys saves her again. He saves her again.
What a hero. Okay, chapter 9, Feyre starts getting delivered hot, yummy meals, which we find out is a part of Rhys's deal of taking care of her.
I love that throughout the series we see Rhys feed Feyre, and I feel like this is like his love language.
Feeding. Acts of service. Yeah, I see that. I like that. No one comes to bother Feyre, and when she is just sick of listening to the screaming, she stares at the eye tattoo on her hand because she's just kind of going crazy. Like all the days are blurring together and she's losing her mind.
Do you think that Rhys had control over the design of the tattoo? Or even having like an eye on her hand?
I don't know. Because if he doesn't, then who?
The cauldron.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Like, where does this... Because it's like a part of their culture in the Night Court. But even if, like, if you and I were a part of the Night Court and we made a deal, we would also get a tattoo. But, like, who's determining that? What that looks like. It's very interesting. Or I wonder if it has to do with the type of deal made.
Maybe. Maybe.
What would you do with your days if you had literally nothing to do and you were just in a cold dungeon cell?
I think I would go crazy.
I would too.
I don't blame Feyre for like becoming in this section when she becomes like super depressed and just I think I would too. That is awful.
How could you not? You're like, what am I even, what's my purpose? And
being cold.
It's such a long period of time between the tasks that you're just losing your mind.
Yeah.
Feyre is taken by two high fae from the Night Court to a room where she is bathed, painted, and clothed in basically nothing. It's described as like a gauze dress that just covers her bits.
Barely.
Yeah, barely. And she doesn't fight this from them. She's just going along with it until Rhys shows up. And then she's like, what have you done to me?
Yeah.
She's not pissed about it until he's involved. And he says he's taking her to a party and the paint is to make sure nobody touches her so that he knows if she's touched, like the paint would be smeared. And she talks back to Rhys in a way that she doesn't do with Tamlin. And she says she just can't stop herself around him. And I feel like although she doesn't realize it in this moment, this is because she can kind of be more of her true authentic self around him. And I think that she maybe never has been her true authentic self because she hasn't had the opportunity to. And even though it's a weird situation, like he's a safe space.
Yeah, and I think like with the history, but their history is different than her and Tamlin's.
That's true.
And I think she's always been a little bit on guard with Tamlin. And with Rhys, I think she's kind of at this point where she's like, you would have hurt me by now.
And what does she have to lose?
Yeah, what does she have to lose? She's a little bit like,
whatever.
If you don't like me, I literally don't care. Like, you'll probably kill me nicer than Amarantha.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. He takes her to the throne room, and once again, Tamlin is emotionless. But he does have a knuckle white grip on the throne, probably at the sight of one, Feyre wearing what she's wearing, and two, being with Rhys wearing what she's wearing.
I noticed that when Feyre looks at him, she says she wants to scream at him, I did all this for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, it's those inklings of frustration of Tamlin not understanding Feyre.
I also think it's just starting to show how I think this would affect any relationship, negatively. Not to say that relationships couldn't survive from something like this, but like she is literally doing everything she can for him and he can't even give her love eyes. Like,
yeah.
it just feels one-sided, I think.
Yeah, and it's been a long, I mean, she's been there for a while.
Yeah, I think at least a few weeks, maybe a month. I don't know how long it was until her first task from the time she arrived.
I don't know either, but she's been there at least a few weeks. Yeah.
Okay, so Rhys tells Amarantha of the deal, and Amarantha is not pleased, but she doesn't punish him. Why do you think she doesn't really react or punish Rhys for his subtle ways of undermining her?
That's a good question.
Because he does this multiple times.
He does. I feel like she thinks he's 100% evil. I think he's very useful to her right now. Like, not only does he please her sexually, but his powers are so useful for her.
She can't risk losing that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I just think that she thinks Rhys is toying with her and not really doing it to undermine her, but maybe just like play this game with her.
Or maybe to even mess with Tamlin. Yeah. So Farrah is really trying to keep her head high, but she feels a lot of shame for being so exposed, both physically and in her deal with Rhys, like the exposure of both those things. And Rhys basically says, drink this wine, which means she breaks another one of Alice's rules.
When grabbing the wine, she says that her fingers betrayed her. Was this Rhys or was this?
Did he force her?
Yeah.
It kind of felt like he was forcing it to happen.
Yeah.
I would agree. She wakes up really hungover in her cell, and Lucien comes to see her to explain what happened the night before because she didn't remember. She just remembered that last bit of before she took the wine. And I guess she danced in a not so sweet way and sat in Rhys's lap the whole night. And Lucien said that he would have come for her after the broken arm if he could, but he was being whipped and then healing. And she accuses him of waiting like he did with the Naga. But Lucien swears he would protect her even if it wasn't for Tamlin. Like him wanting to also honor Tamlin in that protection. And I think even though they were kind of fighting, like it was a sweet moment between them where as a reader you realize how much they've been through and how they truly care for each other. And they've come from this point at the beginning of the book where Lucien is like, who's this human piece of trash? And what is Tamlin doing? Like, this isn't worth our time, to now being like, you are my friend. And it doesn't matter that I'm trying to honor my High Lord. Like, you're my friend, so I would still do everything I can to protect you, which I thought was sweet. Lucien also shares that Tamlin is not under a spell, so he can show emotions, but he's trying to remain emotionless so he doesn't reveal anything to Amarantha, like how he feels about Farrah being tortured or like what bothers him the most. And last episode, we talked about whether or not we thought him remaining emotionless was justified. But what do you think about this now with the new knowledge?
I don't think this is the best. I can see where he's coming from. I just don't think it's the best strategy.
I agree. Like, there has to be another way.
Yeah. And for him to just, here's the thing. I know he's suffering emotionally, but I'm sure he's not locked up in a cell like she is with
There's no way.
No.
I know.
Yeah. Lucien also mentions that Rhys is just trying to get a rise from Tamlin, which I feel like it's a pattern, right? They notice his pattern. It's clear that Rhys doesn't agree with what Tamlin is doing.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what he would do.
I know, if it were him. And it also shows that outside of Under the Mountain, it seems like there's some history with Rhys and Tamlin. Yeah. This cycle repeats night after night of the wine and Farrah not remembering what happened until the night before her second task when they enter the throne room and are summoned by Amarantha. She wants Rhys to read the mind of a lord of the summer court who was caught trying to leave. Not the High Lord, just a lord. Meanwhile, the High Lord of the summer court is like shaking in his boots, and Farrah is watching all of this as it unfolds. And she says that it seems like the High Lord doesn't want something to be discovered. So Rhys reads the Summer Fairy's mind, and we find out that he wanted to escape, but he had no accomplices, although it seems like there's more to the story. Like from a reader's perspective, it feels like there's more going on. Amarantha orders him to shatter his mind, and Rhysand acts so slowly that Amarantha has to tell him, just get on with it, which kind of gives you pause of like, okay, does Rhys enjoy doing this if he's like hesitating? And Rhys doesn't just shatter his mind, but kills him, which gets like a little saucy yell from Amarantha where she's like, I just wanted you to shatter his mind. Kind of like I feel like that would be more torturous than just dying. So I don't know, just interesting tidbits there. And Farah very much thinks there's more to this story, and perhaps killing the Summer Fairy had been a mercy, but she kind of argues with herself and decides that Rhys is probably playing another game. But it's just crazy. Like, she's so observant as I'm reading this interaction, and she's the one picking up on all these little details. She picks up on things that these highly trained fairies don't do. Like, Amarantha didn't notice that Summer Court High Lord is freaking out, or that, I mean, she did notice that Rhys hesitated, but still. Why do you think this is?
I feel like you're starting to see that Amarantha is getting sloppy. She thinks that she's absolutely in control.
And invincible.
Invincible, yeah. You start to see that not everyone obviously supports her, that there's this like rebellion a little bit. Like people don't like being there. But I also, she's arrogant.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then with Farah's history of hunting to survive, like, you really do have to be very observant and skilled in that area.
I also, Rhys mentions Feyre's sassing him, right? She like sasses him a little bit, and he's like, were you this prickly when you were with Tamlin? When you were Tamlin's captive. That's what he calls her.
Yeah.
And I feel like this gives a little bit insight to how he sees Tamlin and Feyre's relationship.
That she had no other choice, essentially.
Yeah. And then when Feyre mentions like, okay, but like your court fell to Amarantha, she gets this like flicker of sadness, which is so sad, but also I feel like she hates it a little bit that she feels that way, and that she can feel his feelings. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, she and we as the readers throughout these last few chapters start to get like little hints that Rhys is more I keep wanting to use the word human, but there's more to the story. He's more than just a villain. Yeah.
Chapter 40, Feyre has her second task. She gets, sent to this place, and she's lowered into a chamber divided by iron bars. I noticed when the ACOTAR is described, he's described as having a tail. And it's long and slender, and it's like slashing the floor. And it gave me like devil vibes.
I totally see that.
And I started thinking about how, even though obviously Under the Mountain is a little bit symbolic of hell, the ACOTAR looks like, I feel like, a devil creature.
Yeah. Or like a demon.
A demon. I just think it's interesting that even though in this world they have all these creatures that look very evil and like things from our nightmares, it's a beautiful woman that's in charge.
Well, they can be.
Yeah.
That looks can be deceiving.
Yeah. And how like evil has many faces.
Yeah.
And I also was thinking about how like Amarantha and Feyre, like they both have sisters. Like there's just like these little like, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit like anyone could be evil.
As soon as you said something similar with them, I totally got that. Like, what happens in your life and how you choose to handle it really impacts your future. And like, what would have happened to Farah if Nesta and Elaine had been brutally murdered by somebody? I don't think she would have went down this path, but I think certain people have tendencies towards different characteristics and struggles with different things. And if like somebody who's already a little prone to anger or prone to bitterness, if they get dealt a really bad hand, then what could they become?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Very interesting.
Okay, so in this chamber, she's on one side and Lucian is on one side, chained to the floor, and she has a riddle laid out for her.
And there's bars between the two of them, right?
Okay. She can't get to him. And so then she sees this riddle and she's 3 levers. And she needs to answer the riddle by pulling the correct lever before they are both slowly impaled by these spikes.
Yeah, where are the spikes coming from?
I think they're like squishing them.
Yeah, it was very.
It's
disgusting. Very scary, and it made me think of Star Wars when the walls are closing in, when they're in that trash area.
I hate it.
And it's, worst nightmare moment.
Yeah, I don't like it. Feyre can't read, though.
Wah, wah, wah. Okay, so Feyre thinks this is just a cruel twist of fate, because she kind of goes back and forth, like, how did Amarantha know? No, it's just a cruel twist of fate. Bad luck. I think Amarantha knew. What do you think?
I think Amarantha figured out Feyre sucks at riddles.
That too.
Yeah.
She can't solve a riddle.
And she probably did think, like, maybe she can't read. She came from the human world. Humans are stupid. And she was a hunter, so she obviously probably didn't go to school. Like, I don't think it's that hard.
That's
to figure
true.
out, but...
That's true. During the scene, all I could think about was, pull the lever, Kronk! And Lucian being like, wrong lever!
Oh, that's what Rhys-Anne was saying.
Yeah. Wrong lever.
Yeah. Okay, at this point, what do you think Tamlin is thinking? He knows Feyre can't read.
Yeah, and he didn't do anything.
He didn't even, like, go after it. I know he can't do anything to Amarantha, but he's just, I don't know, he's frustrating me.
I know, and we don't get insight as to, like, we don't get insight into what he's thinking. And you wonder, too, if Amarantha has said, like, if you ever try to help her, then I will kill her on the spot or something like that.
So she is having a sweat attack.
We all know what those are like.
Oh, yeah.
I know what those are like when you're super nervous.
I'm surprised she didn't have some watery bowels.
Yes, I would have had watery bowels here.
I would have.
Sometimes when my bowels are watery, I have a sweat attack.
Same. So she's just going to make a guess. And she goes to pull the second lever, but her hand with the tattoo starts to burn her when she reaches for it.
Yeah, I remember reading this for the first time and I was having a sweat attack myself. I was just like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? They're going to die. What's this burning thing? And then I was like, what if she goes and reaches with her other hand that's not tattooed and then it doesn't burn? Like, oh my gosh, it was so scary.
She could have reached for the other. I mean, it might have burned though still, but
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Her hand burns. Sorry. Her hand burns when she reaches for all the levers but the third, and she pulls it and she wins the second challenge.
Crazy.
She instantly wants to cry, but she hears Rhys-Anne's voice in her head telling her to stand up and not to let Amarantha see her cry.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time he communicates with her through the bond of what we think is the tattoo. Like,
yeah, like how else would she be hearing his thoughts?
The
bond.
She lets all of her fears out when she gets back to her cell, and she basically has this panic attack and she cries.
Yeah, and this kind of seems to be the first sign of this really affecting her mentally. I know she was in a daze through all the nights of drinking, but when she's actually allowing herself to feel those negative emotions instead of shutting them off. And honestly, it kind of surprises me that she's lasted this long and like pushed it down for so long before letting it surface based off everything that's happened.
Yeah, because at this point, she's been here for 2 months.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, even just before Under the Mountain, like everything she went through, it's just surprising to me.
Yeah. Rhys-Anne comes and visits her, and he tells her to stop crying, and he licks her tears away on her cheek.
How do I feel about this? Based off of the current relationship and current context.
It's a little weird.
Licking.
Yeah.
Licking casually
I don't think
disturbs me.
Yeah.
One time I was in Belize with my family. It's the only time I've left the country. I know it sounds really fancy. And I was with my family, and a man walked up and licked my 16-year-old sister's arm and then ran away.
What?
Yeah, dead serious. And that's what I thought about when I read this. I'm like, that's creepy. You don't just lick people
That's disgusting.
without consent.
Yeah. Feyre doesn't she lets him.
Yeah, she doesn't pull back until
No.
I think she's a little bit
In
shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is a strange choice. It's a strange choice.
We'll go with that.
Feyre wants to feel disgusted, but she says she was burning and couldn't pull away from him.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and then Rhys picks this up, this burning sensation.
Yes, he recognizes that you weren't just disgusted. There was something else there.
Yeah. Feyre's kind of interesting in her choices.
Hey, you know what?
Well, no kink shaming here.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't lick my tears away.
If you like being licked in a casual setting in a dungeon, you know what?
Go for it. As long as it's consensual, I don't care.
But this wasn't.
No, he should have asked before.
I agree.
She probably would have said no.
Yeah, that's probably why he didn't ask.
He taunts her about not being able to read, and then he starts joking that he might make her learn when she goes and spends her week at the night court with him every month. She acts like she hates his visits, but then admits to herself and to us that he saved her from shattering completely.
Mm-hmm. Like she was on the verge of just completely losing it, and then he came in.
Again, Rhys saves her. I feel like, how did we not see it? Did you see it?
I saw it. Okay, so I saw, not that I knew what would happen exactly, but knowing, especially when the book ended, and it's
the
like,
book
okay,
ending, yeah.
Well, now she's also gonna have to pay. She's gonna have to do that 1 week a month. This has to turn into a love triangle. I don't know how it's gonna end, but there's no way it doesn't.
And his reaction at the end to her almost dying, I think I was like, what is happening here? It wasn't normal.
Save it for next episode.
I know, the ending.
We'll dive in. Okay, chapter 41, our last chapter for today. Feyre starts using a lot more negative self-talk. So even though Rhys saved her from shattering completely, that definitely was a big turn for her mental health. And she no longer has faith or confidence in herself. Nothing matters to her. She looks forward to drinking herself into oblivion each night.
I just thought of this.
What?
This is a big spoiler. I mean, not really. Nesta has a big drinking phase later on.
Drinking problem.
Yeah. So again, it's Feyre and Nesta being
kind of similar.
And
it's for the same reasons. She doesn't want to deal with what's happening to her. So she's just drinking to turn it off.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what happens to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Feyre says that she can't entirely blame Amarantha for hating humans after all that was done to her sister, and that she also wouldn't be able to forgive or forget if that happened to one of her sisters. So again, I feel like,
yeah, you kind of talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
What would have happened if this had been somebody else?
And I think it's Feyre thinking the best of people,
right? And
yeah.
We don't really understand why. But at the same time, a lot of people have that mentality where family is family and I would die for them even if they treat me like trash. I think I've said trash 50 times today. Take a drink every time I say trash.
Time. You'll be very drunk. You'll be Feyre at
you'll
dancing.
Be Feyre with her gauze dress and her fairy wine. One night, she's being escorted by Rhys's servants when the ACOTAR and someone else approach, and they hide behind this tapestry that appears out of thin air. And Feyre, once again, being so just observant, is like, this has to be the night court magic. I don't know. And she's like, we're glamored. We must be glamored. So the conversation is about the King of Hybern, who we know was not happy that the humans won the war. And we learn that he has been planning for years to continue his cause to take back the human world, and he wants Amarantha's help.
Okay, I thought it was very strange how, she stole his spell books. She cost him the war. she took Prithian from him.
Yeah.
How is she alive? He seems not like a good villain, like a
I
smart
know.
villain.
But I wonder if he's just been biding his time. Like he's recognizing that now's not the time, like something bigger is coming. He's collecting his resources.
I guess she also lost a lot of his resources, right? And talks about
Yeah,
that.
that's true. And I wonder if it's another one of those situations where if he could encourage her back to his cause, she would be worth more to him alive than dead.
Keep your enemies close.
Yes, exactly. So Farah tried to give herself purpose through this knowledge. Like she's like, what can I do? What can I do? But then she realized that she's already warned her family and there's really nothing that she can do. And she starts to feel hopeless again. And once again, we're seeing another theme in Farah's life where she really needs a purpose and she wants to be needed to have value.
I feel this.
I do too.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think anybody needs a purpose, and hers is clearly helping and like kind of serving her loved ones. So she's back in her cell. She's basically like a void of life, and she begins to hear a beautiful melody.
I love that she mentions if when she would just spend her nights staring at the ceiling that she would start daydreaming of a starry night sky.
She loves the night.
She does.
Which we see a lot. And this music, she goes into like 3 pages of describing how it transports her to this other place and these visions she's seeing and how it just is literally bringing her back to life. And it also lets her see how low she'd gotten. Like she was at rock bottom, but the music reveals to her that she doesn't want to succumb to the darkness. She wants to fight. And she relates this music to her love for Tamlin and his love for her. Now, this is a spoiler for the next book. She says she sees a place or a palace in the skies. And do you think this is the House of Wind? Do you think that like the music in the bond is showing her the Night Court just based off of her descriptions?
I think it's for sure showing her the Night Court.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the descriptions to the House of Wind.
Me neither. I just know it's in the skies.
It's in the skies. So I would think yes.
It's huge.
I think when she visited Valaris.
Yeah, Valaris.
We'll
look it up later.
I don't know. I just read it. I don't say it out loud. I also don't do audiobook, which I think is hindering me.
I know. We'll add it to pronunciation corner next week.
Okay. When she goes there, I think she recognizes it a little bit. I think she like says something and he's like, oh yeah, this is, I think.
Interesting. Like she'd seen it before. And so in the second book, we also find out that Rhys is the one who sent her this music. So once again, he's saving her and like keeping her from shattering completely. And we find out in the second book, that Rhys did this and she connects it to Tamlin in this moment and herself. And like, that's how she gets fueled to fight. It's kind of beautiful though that she doesn't realize that she's actually fighting for like an even more beautiful life than she could have ever imagined. Like she's still fighting for that because she's fighting for her future. She thinks it's this one relationship, but it's actually not just another relationship, but a whole other existence.
Yeah. I noticed at the end of this chapter, the very last sentence, it says that in the next 2 days, she will see what the cauldron has in store for her. Which when Feyre first went under the mountain, she was like, I don't believe in fate. And now you start seeing that she is starting to believe in this greater purpose that the universe, that the cauldron has for her. What do you think has shifted?
You know, when she was pulling the levers or when she realized the whole reading thing, she said this was a cruel twist of fate. Yeah. So I wonder if it's how many times she's been saved and how many times she's been on the verge of death and somebody has helped her.
Especially people who she's helped.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that happens to a lot of people in life who like don't believe in anything. When something happens that shouldn't happen in a good way, then they start to believe like, oh, maybe something's looking out for me. Something's out there. Interesting point.
Something she does mention too is after she hears the music, she looks down at the eye.
Yeah.
And I wonder if she had this feeling it was Rhys.
I don't know. I kind of took it as she clearly just felt a lot of emotions. And if he's been able to feel her emotions through it before. But then I think, why can't she feel his emotions? Does she just not understand how the tattoo works yet? Or is it because he is the orchestrator?
She felt his sadness.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Maybe
Yeah.
she was just like, oh, did he just witness me
feel
all those kind of vulnerable things?
Yeah, because she does look at it and like she even like curses at it, she says.
Yeah.
So she for sure knows that he watches her sometimes.
Yes. Okay, well, that is the end of our recap. So we have a little connecting the cosmos. This is cool because it's all 3 books. We have tattoos in ACOTAR and tattoos in Throne of Glass and tattoos in Crescent City. And they all have really deep meanings in the book and in the culture. So I just thought that was a cool thread that Sarah has weaved throughout the books.
I think it's interesting that they're all different.
Yes, they don't have the same meaning.
No, like some of them are for remembering loved ones. Some of them are not good things. Yeah. Right? They're like
marks some of them are marks of slavery.
Yeah.
And then in this case, it's the mark of a promise. So, yeah, really interesting.
Wheel of Fortunes.
Yes, which we've decided that the wheel is just now Katie's brain. The wheel's turning in her brain to come up with a fun question for us to ponder. So turn those wheels.
Okay, my question for you and for the listeners. What if Tamlin stood up for Feyre? What would Amarantha do? What would be...
I know. I've thought about this a few times. I think that he thinks that she would kill somebody. I don't think she would.
I don't think
she likes
she would
the game
either.
Too much.
Me too.
She really likes the game. Yeah. She might punish somebody in some capacity, but I don't think it would be over.
I'm just thinking, okay, so Feyre's fate in Tamlin's mind is like, she's going to die.
Yeah.
What's Tamlin going to do?
Yeah, like, if she's going to die in these challenges and trials, why isn't he trying to help her?
Yeah, or be like, okay, I'll go down with you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. Yeah, it's weird. It's also hard. Like, it's really hard to put ourselves in that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let us know what you think Amarantha would do if Tamlin did stand up for her.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
I don't have a whale ready.
We don't have a will. That's okay. In our Prithian era.
Okay. In our Prithian era, who are we going to do today?
Let's do... Because last time we did we do Rhys?
We did Rhys
and
Nesta last time.
And Amarantha?
No, we didn't do Amarantha.
Okay, I think we should do Lucien.
He's still a little bit of a mystery.
He is a mystery. He's desperate right now. What's a desperate Swiftie song?
Desperate Taylor Swift song.
Oh, Lucien. It's nice to have a friend.
Because of their moment.
And
when he helped her. I like it.
And him and Tamlin are besties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good friend.
He is a good friend.
I like that.
Ooh. I also think I thought for Rhys, mastermind.
He is smart.
He's so mastermindy.
Yes, he is.
He's very mastermindy.
That's a really good point.
Let us know which Taylor Swift song you think Lucien and Rhys always.
Yeah, we'll do them again.
Or even Tamlin.
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody. And if you want, you can follow us on TikTok at It's Fate Podcast. And we've been posting some fun videos about who, like, ACOTAR meets Taylor Swift. And some other fun things there. You can follow us on Instagram at It's Fate Pod. You can watch on YouTube at It's Fate Pod. And next week, we will be covering the rest of the books. We'll be finishing strong, and we will have a special guest with us to do some fan casting, which will be really fun.
I'm very excited.
Me too. Okay.
Thanks for joining.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.